Have you ever wondered how the taste of your favorite curry or the design of your most cherished dress might have roots in the Renaissance period? Imagine if the spices that give your curry its distinctive flavor or the vibrant patterns on your dress trace their lineage back to the time of Da Vinci and Michelangelo. Yes, we're talking about the profound influence of Indian spices and textiles on European Renaissance. Intriguing, isn't it? Let's delve deeper into this fascinating journey. The tale begins in the 15th century, when Europeans first sailed to India. A time of exploration and discovery, where the allure of the exotic and unknown beckoned seafarers from the shores of the Old World to the vibrant lands of the East. The initial contact between Europe and India was a meeting of two worlds, each with its own unique cultures, traditions, and most importantly, goods to trade. The Europeans were drawn to the East by tales of precious metals and jewels, but it was the intoxicating allure of Indian spices that truly captured their fascination. Spices like black pepper, cinnamon, cardamom, and cloves were a revelation to the European palate. These exotic flavors, so different from the herbs and seasonings they were accustomed to, were a gastronomic treasure waiting to be discovered. As the Europeans tasted these spices, they were captivated by their rich, complex flavors and the depth they added to their food. However, these spices were more than just a culinary delight. In the Middle Ages, spices were also believed to have medicinal properties. They were used in remedies for various ailments, making them even more valuable. The establishment of spice trade routes was no easy task. The journey from Europe to India was long and perilous, fraught with dangers from pirates, storms, and treacherous seas. But the potential rewards were too great to ignore. The spice trade quickly became a lucrative business, with European traders braving the dangers of the sea to bring back these precious commodities. The spices were transported back to Europe along the Silk Road and other trade routes, finding their way into the kitchens of the wealthy and influential. As they were introduced into European cuisine, they brought about a transformation in the way food was cooked and consumed. The spicy, aromatic dishes of India were a stark contrast to the bland fare of Europe, and the Europeans were enthralled by these new flavors. This was the beginning of a gastronomic revolution in the European kitchens. The introduction of Indian spices not only changed the way Europeans ate, but also sparked a curiosity about the exotic lands from which these spices came, paving the way for further exploration and interaction between Europe and India. Now, imagine the European kitchens of the Renaissance period infused with the aroma of Indian spices. The Renaissance was a time of great discovery and exploration, and this extended to the kitchen as well. As Europeans began to explore the world, they discovered a plethora of new flavors and ingredients, many of which came from India. Among these were spices like pepper, cinnamon, and cloves. These spices were like nothing the Europeans had ever tasted before, and they quickly became a staple in many kitchens across the continent. Pepper, often referred to as the king of spices, was a significant game changer in the European culinary scene. It was used to add a punch to otherwise bland dishes, transforming them into savory masterpieces. Imagine a hearty beef stew, simmered with a generous sprinkling of freshly ground pepper, its piquant aroma wafting through the kitchen. Next, we have cinnamon. This warm, sweet spice was used to elevate both sweet and savory dishes. Picture a roasted chicken, its skin crispy and golden, basted with a mixture of honey, wine, and a dusting of cinnamon. The result was a dish that was both sweet and savory, a culinary innovation at the time. And then there were cloves. These small aromatic buds were used to infuse dishes with a depth of flavor that was previously unheard of. Imagine a pot of mulled wine simmered with cloves, its rich aroma filling the room, providing warmth and comfort on a cold winter's night. These spices revolutionized the way food was prepared and tasted in Europe. They not only added flavor, but they also opened up a whole new world of culinary exploration. They allowed chefs to experiment with new combinations of flavors, creating dishes that were not only delicious, but also visually appealing thanks to the vibrant colors of the spices. And thus, the European Renaissance kitchens, once dominated by the flavors of local herbs and ingredients, were transformed into melting pots of global flavors, all thanks to the introduction of Indian spices. The spices not only added flavor, but also opened up a whole new world of culinary exploration. While the kitchens were experiencing a revolution, the wardrobes were not left behind. As the enticing aroma of Indian spices wafted through the air, a wave of vibrant colors and intricate patterns began to unfold on the European fashion scene. This was the arrival of Indian textiles, a phenomenon that was just as transformative as the spice trade, if not more. Indian textiles began their journey to Europe through the same maritime trade routes that the spices took. The Portuguese, Dutch, and English East India companies were eager to bring these exotic fabrics back home, drawn by their superior quality and unique designs. These were no ordinary fabrics. They were the result of an ancient tradition of craftsmanship honed over centuries by skilled weavers and dyers from across the Indian subcontinent. The allure of Indian textiles was in their diversity and quality. From the fine muslins of Bengal, so light and transparent that they were often called woven air, to the richly dyed and patterned chintzes of Coromandel, each piece was a work of art. The textiles were also incredibly durable, thanks to the unique techniques of weaving and dyeing employed by the Indian artisans, which were largely unknown in Europe. But perhaps the most striking feature of Indian textiles was their vibrant colors. The use of natural dyes, extracted from plants, minerals, and even insects, resulted in a palette of colors that was as diverse as the Indian landscape itself. These vivid hues were a stark contrast to the more muted colors prevalent in European textiles of the time. The arrival of Indian textiles in Europe was greeted with fascination and admiration. People were captivated by the exotic designs, the superior quality of the fabric, and the vibrant colors. The textiles were not just used for clothing, but also for furnishing and decoration, adding an element of luxury and opulence to the European households. The impact of Indian textiles on the European fashion scene was profound. It brought about a shift in the aesthetic sensibilities, paving the way for more color, pattern, and texture in clothing. It was a fashion revolution that was set in motion by the arrival of these vibrant textiles from the East. The vibrant Indian textiles were soon to transform the fashion scene of Renaissance Europe. With the influx of Indian textiles, the Renaissance fashion took a dramatic turn. This wasn't merely a subtle shift in aesthetic preference. No, it was a veritable revolution that transformed the landscape of European fashion. Now, imagine the Renaissance period, a time of rebirth and renewal in Europe. A time where art, science, and culture were blossoming. And then, in the midst of all this, entered Indian textiles with their vibrant colors and intricate designs. It was like a splash of color on a blank canvas, a breath of fresh air in a stuffy room. These textiles were no ordinary pieces of cloth. They were the embodiment of a rich and ancient culture, each thread carrying the story of 1,000 years. The vibrant colors were not just visually appealing, but they also represented the vivacious spirit of India. The intricate designs, on the other hand, were a testament to the skilled craftsmanship of Indian artisans. It was these unique attributes that made Indian textiles a coveted commodity in Europe. European fashion, until then, had been dominated by a palette of muted colors and simple designs. The arrival of Indian textiles introduced a new spectrum of colors and patterns, causing a radical shift in the fashion scene. Suddenly, wearing Indian textiles became a symbol of wealth and status. The more elaborate the design and the more vibrant the colors, the higher the social standing of the wearer. Kings and queens adorned themselves in Indian fabrics, setting a trend that rapidly percolated down to the lower social strata. Even religious vestments bore the mark of Indian influence, with priests and bishops donning robes made from Indian textiles. It was a fashion revolution, and it was happening right in the heart of Europe. But the influence of Indian textiles wasn't fleeting. It didn't fade away with the passage of time. Instead, it left a deep and lasting impact on European fashion, shaping its evolution for centuries to come. Even today, the echoes of this influence can be seen in the fashion trends around the world. The Indian textiles left an indelible mark on the European fashion scene, a mark that is still visible today. The influence of Indian spices and textiles was not fleeting. It left a lasting impact on Europe. The vibrant flavors and exotic textiles of India didn't simply fade away with the Renaissance. Instead, they became woven into the fabric of European culture, shaping its cuisine and fashion for centuries to come. Let's revisit our journey. The early contact between Europe and India sparked an insatiable craving for Indian spices. These bold flavors transformed the bland European cuisine, introducing a new world of culinary possibilities. The Renaissance kitchens were buzzing with the aromas of cinnamon, pepper, and cloves, adding a dash of Indian magic to every dish. Equally transformative was the introduction of Indian textiles. The rich patterns and vivid colors of Indian fabrics captured the imagination of European fashion designers. The Renaissance saw a revolution in fashion, with Indian textiles taking center stage. From royal courts to the homes of the common folk, Indian styles became a symbol of elegance and status. But the influence didn't stop there. Even today, we see the echoes of this historic exchange. European cuisine continues to embrace Indian spices, and the fashion industry frequently draws inspiration from Indian textile designs. Our modern world is a testament to this enduring relationship. So, the next time you savor a spicy dish or admire a fashion piece, remember the intriguing journey of Indian spices and textiles from the bustling markets of India to the grandeur of Renaissance Europe.